Well, hello, everybody. Jeff Mason with SimpleBiz360 podcast here. We're coming to you from the STLLewispodcast.com company. That's stlouispodcast.com. And we are here today with a very special guest, and we are actually honored to have Donna Abate Potter with us. She is the founder of Fusion Gates out of Edwardsville, Illinois. And before we get into the episode, just kind of want Donna to tell you just a little bit about what Fusion Gates is, and then we'll dive into a really great episode with some fantastic content. And stick with us. It's going to be a little more than an hour probably, so stick with us. But Donna, welcome. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thank you for inviting me. It's very, very exciting to be here and to talk about being a solopreneur, which that is what I am. About 12 years ago, I came up with this idea to design a dog gate, baby gate that actually added aesthetic value to your house that was actually beautiful and worked beautifully and looked beautiful. So that's what Fusion Gates is. It's not really sexy to be to tell somebody that you sell dog gates, but when you see the gates, which we have a picture right here,
very cool.
It is it really is a piece of art and a piece of furniture and that you can put into your home that really adds value at the same time keeping your baby safe and your pets safe.
Cool.
So it was what is that, mother invention?
Mother of all inventions?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, but you truly, the mother, figured it out.
As a mother, yes.
That is so
came
cool.
up with it. So,
Very cool. Well, we're going to dive into this a little bit later. Thank you very much, Donna. So just to kind of give you also a framework, we have some cool common threads that connect us, which we're out here in St. Louis, as you folks know. And Donna and I both went to high school in New Jersey, in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, Governor Livingston Regional High School, they called it at that time, which is about 950 miles from where we're sitting today, GL. Donna graduated a little bit after I did, so I'm a little bit older. But nonetheless, we have that common thread where we went to the same high school and we found ourselves out here in Illinois, which was awesome. Now, the second thread, which is even kind of cooler, is the fact that I actually took Donna's sister to the junior prom. So, that's another common thread. So it's kind of fun to just have that as part of our story together today. But really today is about Donna. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about solopreneurship. It's about some of the fun, some of the lead ups to what got Donna to where she is, some of the just pieces of the life puzzle that got injected into it all that made it interesting, made it sticky. And, we're going to have a really, the content on this show is going to be different than anything I've ever done. So I do want to just ask your kindness. We're going to do a Lost in the Shuffle track at the end. Donna selected her favorite track. And then after that, we're going to have a very special couple moments. So please stick around for that if you could. And I just want to forewarn Alex, Alex Dietrich on the boards, by the way. I just got to let you know, bud, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I got a cramp last night at home. And when this guy gets a cramp, there's a lot of drama.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so my wife has a video. We're debating whether that does go, but if it does go out, it's probably viral. So I just hope I don't get one on this stool today. So listeners, viewers, maybe you'll be part of history. Hopefully not. But at any rate, we'll get into it and dive right into it. So where did you grow up? Was it Berkeley Heights all your life? Or is that where you grew up? Or?
Yeah, actually, my family, there's 5 of us, 5 kids. We were all born in Illinois, and that's where I live now. But we were born there, and I was 2 when I moved.
Oh, wow.
Moved
I didn't know
to
that.
New Jersey, yes. But I still say I'm a Jersey girl at heart.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, when those formative years, high school definitely creates who you are.
Whereabouts in Chicago were your folks from?
Oak Park, Illinois.
No kidding.
Yes.
So another common thread. My folks are from LaGrange and Evanston, so they're Chicagolanders.
Oh, that's right. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't hard to get back that Midwestern twang.
Very cool. So you got 4 yourself and 3 other sisters and 1 brother. Is that right?
That's right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you moved to Berkeley Heights when you were a young age. To give you some context, by the way, Berkeley Heights, if you've ever traveled in New Jersey, if you've been on Route 78 headed east towards Newark, we were the town that for 20 years, the road ended in Berkeley Heights. 78 just stopped. I'm sure there were plenty of travelers that were like, what's going on? What do we have to do? So that before GPS, So anyway, that's where we were located. So that's where you moved to. And so as a young girl growing up in New Jersey, did you feel like at any point in your life early on that you had some type of special gift to be an entrepreneur, even at an early age?
I don't know if it was a special gift to be an entrepreneur, but I will say, coming from a big family, I did like to be alone a lot. I like to play in the closet or like find some place in my home that I could be alone with my imagination. So, you come from a fairly big family, and my family just was, always, Irish, Italian, Catholic.
Yeah, wow.
It's loud and it's active,
Yeah.
But I always needed to find a place where I could just kind of be by myself, But yeah.
Were you always, were your thoughts just always going as a kid? Were you always thinking?
I'm very imaginative.
Wow.
So and it's ironic that, my product is probably the only pet product that could actually be in a pet magazine and like a interior design magazine. I was in love with interior design, and so was my mother. My mother constantly painted things in our house and changed furniture around, and I just always loved that kind of stuff.
So you kind of picked that up. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's always been kind of in your DNA. Is just that what's the house look like? What are the rooms? What can we do different? That's cool.
Yeah.
And the quiet time, I get it. A lot of people. That's a special thing too in a crowded family. Now, was that family one where you had to? I hear about some of these big families at the kitchen table. Did you have to compete for food? Hey, give me that roll. That's the last row.
My sister Carolyn, I don't know if you remember her. She was the second oldest. She just always ate so much, so we used to call her Jethro, like from the Beverly Hillbillies. But no, not really.
Yeah, cool.
No, yeah. My mom. When we got into the high school years, she was the queen of casseroles. So, it's just as soon as we started high school, we kind of fed ourselves.
Yeah.
My family, I would say all of us kind of had an independent spirit. And maybe it's because we were such a big family. We were all trying to find, our own way and our own identity or whatever. But as far as eating, no, we just... she always made plenty.
Good. Well, I hear sometimes there's some crazy stories about people fighting for, what's theirs. So anyway, very cool. So your mom and dad, was your mom a homemaker, like a lot of moms were then? She didn't work, did she?
No, she did not work until high school, and she got a small job being a receptionist at the Holiday Inn on Route 22.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. But she was always there for us, during grammar school and all. My dad worked for ATT. Okay. As a matter of fact, I have a whole legacy of ATT in our family. My grandfather started in, I think, 1929, and then my dad started working there in 1953. And then I started working at AT&T in 83. Wow. So what do I say, like 9 decades?
Wow, that is amazing.
So he was in Piscataway driving back and forth a lot. Actually, he started in New York and then moved to Piscataway. But yeah, I think we were pretty average
Sure.
in Berkeley Heights,
Yeah, so a lot of, I don't mean any disrespect, a lot of mothers, you work at home, trust me, with 5 kids, that a homemaker, you're working, it's a job. But, so 9 decades of AT&T, amazing. Again, some perspective. Folks, where we went to high school, we actually, our high school is situated in what's called Murray Hill, New Jersey. And if you, back before the divestiture occurred in the mid-'80s, AT&T, which a lot of people probably don't even know today, it's American Telephone and Telegraph. It was what we called Ma Bell. It was affectionately Ma Bell. Every telephone was only AT&T, every line was AT&T, and they had it covered. And so when you went up to our high school, if you took the bus, you were kind of coming in on a road called Mountain Avenue, and you took a right, I don't even know what the name of the road, Murray Hill Road, or I guess, I don't know. But you would go up this hill to take another left to go to our high school, and all you could see the campus of AT&T. We housed in our town a campus of any given moment about 17,000 employees, I think it was.
Yeah, Bell Labs.
Yeah, Bell Labs. That's what it was called. It was humongous. People would come in from out of town. I don't know if it was that way with your family, but you'd hop in the car and you'd give them a tour of Bell Labs. They want to see this city where Ma Bell lives. So we were in this town. A third of the kids in our high school, their parents probably worked there, if not more.
Yeah.
I mean, and yours too. So very cool. So a lot of best practices in your family, because that's AT&T, right?
Oh my gosh, it was like an amazing training ground. Amazing training
Yeah.
ground, and that was back when they cared.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
cared
Yep.
about their employees. That they probably do now. Haven't been there for a while, but it was such an interesting transition in the 80s because you had to be quicker on your feet.
Yeah.
You couldn't carry a lot of employees. There was a lot of layoffs towards the end of my career there because. Because of divestiture, there was a lot of competing that AT&T never had to do before.
Right.
But they certainly hired amazing people to teach us. I started as somebody on the phone.
Seriously?
At a call center for divestiture in the stock and bond division. And then I moved quickly to management, advertising, and it was a really wonderful place, not only to work and to learn, but socially.
Yeah.
That's actually how I met my husband, too.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. There was just, it was just such an exciting time, you know? But, after a while, it just, it was all about the bottom line, which it should be. But I think they lost some of the practices that you actually have in your book, SimpleBiz360, because as a matter of fact, it reminded me a lot about the best practices that they taught us early on. And, I'm afraid sometimes that companies are, moving away from that because people aren't committed to it, you know?
And again, I think you're talking about something that's really important for the listeners and viewers to know is back then, it was not uncommon for a man or a woman to go into a position and work at that company for a career and spend 35, 40 years there, right? That
was my expectation. All of us who got jobs there, we thought we're set for life.
Right.
And that was not the case.
Yeah.
But like I said, luckily in '83, and they still had a lot of those probably training that my grandfather had in 29, who, by the way, actually ran telegraphs between in the alleys throughout Chicago, So,
oh my gosh.
I know, it's crazy.
The stories. Best practices when as a person who, is focused on continuous improvement, gosh, you just knew that they were the mother of invention of so many of these things. They were at the forefront. They were leading the way. And to be an employee there was, I would imagine, quite competitive to get in there. And once you're in, you probably want to stay and you love it and the culture. And that's what I've heard. Was that how it was?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I'm still friends with so many of those people.
Cool.
And, and they all, a lot of them don't work there anymore, but everybody I know is pretty successful in what they've decided to do and what direction. They all have big jobs.
Wow, that's so neat. So 83, you started working there, and the divestiture happened in 84, 85?
84, but we prepared for it in 83.
Okay.
So my job was to talk to share owners who once had AT&T stock, and now it was in the 7 regional companies.
Wow.
So, there was a lot of anxiety on the part of the people calling it, because this is money. This is their money.
Right.
And I do think I learned a lot of my empathy that you mentioned in the book, and just caring for these people.
Yep.
One exciting thing happened to me. That one of the stock owners called up, and he said his name was, I don't remember the first name, but the last name was Springsteen, and I couldn't help it. I was in Florida, by the way, but I couldn't help it but say, "Are you related to Bruce?" And he said, "I'm his uncle."
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? How cool.
I know.
How cool.
I know.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I remember him mentioning his uncle in his book, but I don't know. Who knows? The guy could have been pulling my leg.
Well, you never know. But I mean, hey, that's so cool. So you're there after how long after the divestiture did you stay with the, I mean, what did the company transition to? Was it Lucent or what was that?
Well, actually, the company that I worked for, my father actually started. So he was in the stock and bond division at AT&T. And then when divestiture happened, he and a colleague of his decided to start a company. It's a subsidiary.
Okay.
Start a subsidiary with AT&T called American Transtech, and so they basically built it from the ground up. And what was so wonderful about Transtech is all of these really cool concepts were coming out of big schools like Harvard or whatever, like something like socio-technical design, which is where you teach teams to be motivating and self-managing teams. So that was really early on, and it was a wonderful way. It was kind of like you had a small business in a little larger business, which is part of even a larger business. Yeah. But they encouraged you to think outside the box and to express yourself, and to feel, even as a somebody in a call center, to feel like you mattered.
So you had empowerment. You could
exactly.
Make it. Did your wheels start spinning about entrepreneurship there at this point? I mean, did you ever think about
probably.
it?
Yeah. I think so. I was really lucky in most of my positions early on in AT&T that I had good people that I worked for that allowed me to use some of my creativity to. I had 3 teams of telemarketers. When I became a manager, I had 3 teams of telemarketers, and we would just come up with different ways to motivate them, different ways to train them, and it was a lot of fun. And I remember at the time my supervisor, Marion Brown, just allowed me to do it, and it was really great.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you stay with this entity for how long?
13 years.
13 years, okay.
And one of the things that they had, and this is my first adventure in entrepreneurship, probably 10 years in, they offered this is when they didn't want to necessarily lay off too many people, but they were definitely going in that direction. So they did this trial where you can do take 2 years off. You'd still keep your start date. I'm trying to remember if I got benefits then. I probably didn't, but you did. So you were guaranteed to get a job back 2 years after if you wanted to come back.
Cool.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. And it just happened to be at the time where I felt that I started getting that itch. I started feeling like, there was so much more I wanted to do. At the time I worked in international marketing. There was just so much more I wanted to do. So I decided that I would take advantage of that. And I remember I came up with this idea called American Scripting Company, which I didn't trademark it, but that was the name of my company. And I took all of the tools that I learned in my training at AT&T and just took them on the road, like kind of, packaged it, sent it to companies. Like I actually got a couple of clients, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Time Warner.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
This was your own. This
was my own idea, and basically it was offering, because at the time you used scripts for both inbound and outbound telemarketing. Right. So that's where Scripting Company came. But I didn't just write the scripts for the companies. I also did sales training for the telemarketers, and I also used a lot of my knowledge on list management and how to get to the right customer, what questions to ask and stuff.
Oh, how cool!
And you know what? I was really amazed at how, again, that excellent training that AT&T gave me just translated perfectly into insurance and selling books. Who knew?
I mean, I had no idea that was a piece of your puzzle.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, I mean, phone scripting, huge back then. I mean, it really was inbound, outbound. You're right.
Don't hate me because I was an outbound telemarketer.
I mean, gosh, people don't.
It wasn't as interruptive then,
Yeah,
but,
correct. It wasn't.
It really wasn't. I mean, we didn't call anybody on a Saturday or Sunday or never after, a certain time.
Yeah. A lot of it's so intrusive
Yes,
now. And,
yes.
those of us who have shut off our phones at home and just go on our cell phones, it's just,
Right.
it's really, a whole different world. Yeah, it's so funny. When I first started in sales, we used to have phone banks, and we could only go in and make phone calls to get appointments for an hour. And they would turn off, we were in New York City, they turned off all other area codes. So you couldn't call anybody but in the 212, but you had script, and your objective in an hour was to dial about 85 to 115 prospects. I mean, so you're just, you're just hammering away. And it's just, just to get a point. So the scripting part, I know all too well, but that's a great, I did not know that part of your history. So you did that for 13 years. So now, are you in Illinois yet, or are you still in New Jersey?
No, I'm still in New Jersey.
Okay.
Single till all my friends were getting married. It's funny because I always thought that was, my ultimate goal is, to find somebody, get married, have a family. And, this is, in the meantime, I just, worked. Yeah. But I always got into my job.
Really?
I always got way into it,
immersed,
which I really appreciate. It's like, if no one's going to marry me, I might as well get a promotion. But
wow.
No, I enjoyed everything that I did. I actually ended up going back to AT&T after those 2 years because I realized that it wasn't necessarily. I don't think I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was ready to take on the responsibility of constantly finding new big clients.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I went back to AT&T, and then I moved to California. Actually, I got another promotion. I moved to California to run the local. AT&T was long distance, so we were getting into the local business. And my husband, who was not my husband at the time, moved and got a job with Pac Bell, and because Pac Bell was then going into long distance. So he and I ended up being direct competitors, but we were also friends from AT&T, and it was really interesting. Yes. But there, it just kind of ran its course, and I actually decided to leave. Jim and I kind of moved in together, and we talked about getting married and all. So that was kind of going in that direction, and I actually ended up leaving with the intention of writing a book about my grandfather, my father, and myself. And the name of the book was, I always came up with the name. Anytime I come up with something, an idea of a business, or I always come up with a name first. So it was Waking Up from the American Dream was the name of it. And it was about my look at corporate America with, in the same, looking at 3 generations and 9 decades. And I interviewed my grandfather, which it's such a precious tape that I have now because he's passed away. But, he would talk about running through the streets of Chicago, how during the wars, they never laid off anybody. But everybody just accepted and agreed upon working half days. So nobody lost their job, He was a telephone repairman too. So climbed poles, and so did my dad. But so that was the intention. But then weddings and babies kind of got in between.
Well, again, so you come to, when did you come to Illinois then? What?
So we had we got married. We had 2 boys. We actually had a stint in Germany. Jim actually he worked for AT&T, then Pac Bell, then went in on the advertising side to Saatchi. So we had the 2 boys, had 2 years in Germany, which was amazing. Talk about just I had no idea that the world was so big.
Yeah.
And then we moved back. We adopted 2 girls. We had the 4 kids. And it was pretty overwhelming, I will admit. It was pretty overwhelming. And one of the things that Jim is from Illinois, originally grew up here in Savannah, Illinois, and he convinced me that he thought Illinois would be a better place to bring up the kids. And we actually ended up moving to Edwardsville, which is a wonderful town to have your kids grow up in.
Yeah, Midwest. We're in the O'Fallon, St. Charles area, and same thing with us. It was a nice surprise to see Midwestern life. I don't know if you're like me, but I think the first time we got invited to play board games, they said, "Hey, do you guys want to come over and play board games?" And I'm like,
I know.
Board games.
Well, trivia nights are huge here.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is trivia night? And it is our favorite thing to do. We love it.
I mean, it was just like, I look at my wife going, well, hold on, we'll get back to you. Like, honey, what kind of board games? Like Life or something? We're like,
that is so
that's for
funny.
kids. So,
I
but
know.
you see that it's just a different pace, and
Right.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh,
either
I love it.
location. Yeah, it is.
It
nice.
took me a year to stop looking over my shoulder in the Dierbergs parking lot because you know how aggressive you can be. And let me tell you, I don't want to lose anything from my Jerseyness. I love the work hard, play hard, and the assertiveness. I keep on telling my kids, it's not aggressiveness, it's assertiveness.
Yeah, no, listen, it is.
But
and that's
there
true.
is, there's a beautiful part of just like, the Midwest is a wonderful place.
It
like
is.
I said.
It really is. First time I had to drive through the cornfields of Iowa and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, gag me with not one spoon, but various spoons. This is horrible.
I find it beautiful.
Yeah, well, now I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely get lost in the farmland.
The wheat fields, and I know.
That August when the corn is done and it's blowing in the wind, the goldenrods. Oh my gosh! But like I had when I first came here, it was a tough adjustment, but now I do. I absolutely just love the open plains. I mean, it's just something neat. But so you're here in Edwardsville, 4 kids. I don't want to, I get a feeling that somewhere in this zone is when the idea comes. When does the idea for coming up with Fusion Gates? What year are we in? When does it hit you?
2000. We moved in 2006, so it was about 2007, 2008. Okay. And it was a perfect storm. We had bought an old Victorian, 1893 Victorian with 4 levels. Like I said, kids running around like crazy, and we decided to renovate it. That was something I really love to do. I mentioned that I love interior design and stuff, and we did a little renovation in New Jersey, but this was going to be a big renovation. So the kids were still little, and I started to draw, and I always loved to draw when I was younger. I never pursued that, but I just always loved creativity. And so I started to draw, what I would see my house looking like. And then I bought a couple of just design things online. And I started working online to just draw the plans. I found a builder, and they basically built what I saw. And that was so empowering to me. I love that idea. So during the build, it was just crazy. And like I said, I had kids all around the place. And, there's times where a second floor was there with no railing. Yeah. So I'd have to get out my old baby gates and literally wrestle with them to open them and to keep they would fall over. Right. I used baby gates when they were little and never liked them. I think I've mentioned to you that to me, it was something that just made me feel like I was literally in jail because it was like the vertical bars and barricades. It was bad enough that I did feel, claustrophobic. And like I said, I was a career woman for a long time. And, to all of a sudden, it wasn't that. My Campbell's almost a honeymoon baby, so it was pretty quick.
Wow.
Pretty quick. So I started thinking about it, and after the renovation was completed, we celebrated. I never had a dog before, ever. My parents weren't pet people.
Okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, I never thought I missed anything, But my father, oh good God, my husband, and the kids just kept on, really, really wanted it. So I thought, okay, I'll get a dog. I was not looking forward to it. To be perfectly honest. I think I have a blog that says, Confessions of a Reluctant Dog Owner, which, by the way, everybody, I am a massive dog lover now, So just before Buster came, I researched a beautiful, looking for a beautiful pet gate. And probably if I grew up with a dog, I wouldn't have even looked because I would have assumed that it existed. So I just assumed that a beautiful pet gate existed. And I had been just spending time picking tiles and, trim and stuff like that. So why wouldn't something that's 3 feet by 3 feet, be good looking? So I kept on looking and looking, and at the same time, I was kind of a little lost in what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And my youngest was she was going to be going into kindergarten, so I'd have a little bit of free time. So anyway, I designed this gate that had interchangeable panels because I couldn't decide what I wanted to look like. So I wanted something that I could do different seasons in. And I had my builder build it for $700. And I thought, oh my God, I love this, And people would come into my house saying, I love your gate. And I was like, you know what? Let me start researching it. And I always say this, like, I don't think any entrepreneur would even move, an inch if they had the knowledge of what it took to
to do something like that.
what is about to happen, So that being naive, I think, is a key ingredient, to going in that direction. You just
bingo. Nobody told you.
No, nobody told me, right? So I'm like, okay, might as well. Let me draw this, and then and then I start just researching. Thank God for the internet, and I still use it constantly, Google everything. But so I just started researching it, and then I started looking into, trademark. And once again, I came up with the name. Now, the name was originally Freedom Gates. And it had so many I had so many ideas about it because, this was going to be, freedom for me to actually get start something, and freedom for the, just a freedom of feeling, not feeling like you're.
It had meaning. It had
meaning, right, exactly. Yeah. But it ends up I couldn't trademark that. So I moved to Fusion Gates. And Fusion Gates, I thought was even a better name because it was what I wanted this product to be, which was a combination of form and function, something that was both, what do I say, like safety and serenity, I mean, it sounds crazy, but just transitioning from one room to another. Actually, my sister, Mary Jo, who you went to the prom with, helped me with my tagline. I knew I was thinking of like harmony, and she's like, why don't you use the word portal? So my tagline is, Fusion Gates, a portal to harmonious living,
Sure.
And I think about that all the time, and
it makes a ton of sense. I mean, the fact that we spend so much time in our homes, and to have them, we spend so much time on remodeling and fixing, and like you said, your mother was, interior design-wise, rearranging things and painting things. We put a lot in that, but I think primarily because we spend so much time there. So to have that ability to feel different this month than you did last or this season, right? And so, I mean, I get it, totally get it.
I actually did research on, how aesthetics, home aesthetics affects the mentality. And as I know we're going to be talking about is this, mental extremes, like just creating a calm, easy place is really important to me. I didn't mention the fact that when my dog arrived, and his name is Buster, he's a little mini golden doodle, it was love at first sight. I still am in love with this dog. He's 12 years old, and I am in love with this dog. And we got a second dog too, and his name is Dexter. And they are my muse.
They're infectious.
Yes, they really are.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I imagine cat owners too. The same thing. I mean, everybody. You never had one. You fall in love with them quick, and so that's really neat. So, Fusion Gates, you couldn't trademark Freedom. You go to Fusion.
Right.
You start selling your products when, and what's your first product?
Yeah. Well, I actually only sell one product, and I sometimes I tell my customers, this is, you're going to love this product because it's probably the only product I'll ever make, and I'm committed to this. But actually, a very important key step that I took was I joined Innovators and Inventors Club in Edwardsville. Yep. It's called, oh God, guys, don't kill me, the Illinois Innovators and Inventors Club. If you just look it up, and there's also one in St. Louis too, and it was a wonderful experience. It was just people who would come in, we'd all sign a non-disclosure form when we walked in, and you can just talk about any idea you had. And what was really nice in there is there was patent lawyers in there.
Wow.
So they would give you basically free advice. And that's when I decided to pursue a patent at the same time as, just deciding to build the gate. So I ended up getting 2 patents on it. That sounds so quick. It took me years and thousands of dollars, but it was important to me.
Because you were an inventor. I mean, don't you consider yourself really an inventor?
Well, you know what? It's so funny. I feel uncomfortable when people call me that, but it is the truth that I did come up with this concept, and I mean the journey from the idea, literally at a dining room table, to going to China and having it built. There's just so much. I call it a gauntlet, and it wasn't all pain, but it was just. There was so much involved, and I
mean, it's not easy. I mean, I've been in manufacturing, had to travel over to Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, so I kind of get a feel for the process and development stuff. But nothing like this, where you're taking something from a sketch on a dining room table,
right?
Tired of, and I think you said someplace I wrote it down. You talked about just getting tired of looking at an old piece of iron. Yeah. Wasn't that what one of your quotes was? That, I'm just tired of looking at this ugly piece of iron that functions, but I want to do something. So, that to me, I mean, I look at that and say, wow, that's hats off to you. That's taking an idea, going down the patent road, going down the sourcing road, which sourcing is not easy.
Yeah.
Finding the right sources, culling that out, the money that's involved in that. So,
I had no experience whatsoever in manufacturing. Frankly, I naively, I'm thinking about your chapter where you say DIY websites. You talk about, do it yourself. I did not expect to do a lot of things myself. Yeah. I thought, hey, I came up with this great idea. Somebody's going to engineer it. Somebody is going to, help me find somebody to build it. Someone's going to do the marketing. The idea of taping a box. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to tape a box.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm an inventor. Yeah.
I'm an inventor. I just came up with the idea. Come on, this should be easy. And oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you. And each one of those steps, I paid money for somebody to do. Right. I mean, I can't even tell you how much money. But we paid money to have somebody, build our website like you did. Right. I mean, I went to, I don't want to say the name, but a seminar here where I paid somebody $6,000 to build an e-commerce website that I didn't know how to do back end, I had no idea. And then once they build it, you had to call them to make any changes or whatever. So, that I learned myself. And then, like I said, engineering, I just thought if I just draw this, they'll put it together. But I will tell you, finally, I found after, I think I went through 3 engineer companies, and I ended up finding a guy who I would consider, sorry, Dave, OCD, that worked out of his garage. But you walk into his garage, and I was introduced to him by a mutual friend that I met at that Inventors Club. You walk into his garage, and his, saws and all of his equipment is sparkling. Yeah. His floor is sparkling. Yeah, so he's meticulous. Yeah. Yes, and I came to him with my drawing, and one of the things I definitely wanted to do was to go into the baby market as well. So the drawing and then the ASTM safety standards. Yep. And I said, okay, I need you to marry this with this. And then I did? I gave him, I said, here's what I'm going to describe for you. And I know you'll love this, Jeff, because it's in your book. I'm going to describe to you what people want in a baby gate and what people don't want. So I said, they want to be able to walk through it. They don't want to be tripping. They want it. I feel like, even though nobody's done this before, that they want something that doesn't interrupt the flow of the design that they put into their home. You know. But like I said, they don't want to trip. They don't want to, when they're putting it together, they don't want to bruise. I said it's got to be mommy
Interesting.
bruise proof
Oh my
because I
gosh.
can't tell you
Yeah.
how many times I was, picking up these
Yeah.
gates and I'd end up with bruises all over my body, or the kids would fall over. So I really felt that
Bruise-free. I like it.
represented who the user was going to be,
Yep. Yeah.
and he was really interesting. He had patents himself, and he said he would not have taken me if I hadn't already gone through all of the other engineer firms, because you have to go very humbly, as we know. That's what this whole experience has taught me, is how to be humble. At the beginning, I don't know if this is everybody, but for me, I just pretended I knew how to do everything. And you know what? That was a mistake, and it cost me money. But, you do have to start somewhere, but after a while, even just the building of it, I mean, he ended up actually doing a CAD file, and I'm like, okay, what's a CAD file? And okay, now that I have a CAD file, how do I read a CAD file? How to learn that, and there's 64 pieces in my gate. And
Is that the assembly?
yes,
Yeah. Wow.
and I, with the exception of knowing how to miter and saw things together, I could build that gate.
Wow.
I know, and he, again, my engineer almost insisted that I know how to do it.
Right.
So I literally, it was a very intimate time with my gate to make sure that it worked properly.
Seriously, smart guy. I was in the apparel manufacturing business, and I went over and started working for a Fortune 1000 company that made pants. My first 2 days on the job, I had to go into the sample sewing room, and I had to go from making my own pattern on a Camsco pattern maker to sewing all the different panels of those pants together and doing it all 2 times, so that I could become familiar with the equipment, the complexities, the intricacies, and understand that, we're talking about something that's got 30 or so parts to it. So I applaud him, because, that way you have an appreciation for what goes into it as you're sourcing things, as you're doing things, as you're listening to the, maybe there's a better way to do this portion of your assembly versus that. But more importantly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what goes into your product, which is so, I would imagine there's a fair amount of people out there that don't really know all those nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah, seriously.
And not only how to build it, but nothing's flawless.
Yeah.
And I will say that that is one thing I'm so happy that I know, because when customers do call and they have an issue, I know exactly, maybe the bend isn't right in the threshold, or maybe, the spring must be, something wrong with the spring. So I know pretty quickly how to fix that, So problem solving, it really, really helps a lot.
That's dynamite. You source in China. If I'm looking at your website correctly today, is it fair to say you've got about 550, 600 some odd panels or style numbers to choose from? Is that correct or not?
So the gate is one size.
Okay.
And which fits a standard 34 to 36 inch door. And even something like that, like I had to go to Home Depot and say, what's a standard door size?
Sure. Oh, bet.
So that's where it starts. And then I realized that, this open concept is really the thing.
Yep.
So I wanted to be able to add panels to it. And those panels go all the way up to 74 inches, which are also very decorative as well. So that's 7 different widths, and then I have 28 different designs, which I would have 100 if I could.
You
I
could,
got to
sure.
stop myself, So if you multiplied 28 by 7, it just it gets pretty big. So
very cool.
It's really, and I've got an amazing designer,
nice.
Lisa Schwarzkopf. I love you.
That's great. Yeah, well, shout out to her.
Yes.
It looks very nice. I forget the one you call your bird story or your
songbirds.
Songbirds. I love
that's
that.
really popular. Yes,
It's just subtle and it's very, just very peaceful. Looking at it. So very cool. So this is so today, by the way, fusiongates.com. We're going to put the information up later on at the end of the show, but that's where people can go to look, and it's gatesplural.com. Just want to make sure everyone knows that. So here you are, an inventor. You've launched a company. You've got a family, 4 children, but is that enough? Is life? Are you being fulfilled at this point? Are there other things going on in your life that intertwine?
Yeah, things are going great right now in my life, but and I do think it's because of the journey,
right? Not
because of the business.
Right.
It's because of the journey, which has been a really, really hard one. Right. So I will say right now in my life, I'm so proud to say this, I'm balanced.
Good.
I'm balanced, but I was severely unbalanced when I started the process. It was...
and you're comfortable talking
about it.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah. So this is where we're kind of getting into, and this is I think, the real story behind the story with you. I mean, if I can say that.
Of course, yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's so hard that when I think I mentioned this to you, when I meet another entrepreneur, I'm probably 10 seconds away from giving them a hug, because I just know what they're going through. And I wrote an article recently about the mentality of a lot of entrepreneurs. And I had read in Psychology Today, I think, is what first gave me a hint, and it made me feel good about myself, at least feel like I wasn't alone. And that's that, a lot of crazy people are entrepreneurs, I mean, you have to get almost an obsession to take the next step, And there is no question that this was an obsession. And I mean, I tell people often, it was almost like a love affair. It was almost like falling madly in love with somebody, where I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'd wake up at 3 a.m, and I have my computer next to me, and I would be like, and it could be this, and let me look up the, who my customers are going to be, and, just...
Wheels never stop turning.
Yeah, never stop turning. Couldn't shut it off, And, I don't know if my husband and kids saw it right away, but, I think my husband was really excited that I was excited. And he was incredibly supportive. I thought, it's so interesting what your goals are to begin with. I'm like, this is great. I haven't worked in 5 years. I'm going to build this huge company, and my husband won't have to work anymore. My husband loves his job, but, I was thinking I could, contribute, and I'll be my own person, because, I'm sorry, when you're a stay-at-home mom, sometimes you just lose yourself. And because I didn't get married till I was 37, I was, who I was, And so, a lot of it, unfortunately, but I think a lot of people start this way, was about proving myself. But I didn't realize that at the time. I was, under the veil of thinking, oh, this is going to be great for my family. But it was really about me and my ego, and me, trying to matter. So that just got a little intense at times,
Did it lead to sleep deprivation?
Absolutely. It did? Okay. 1,000%. And I know you and I have talked about it. I mean, to shut it down, I would have a glass or a bottle of wine, or I definitely was thanking God for sleeping pills, I just, I couldn't, it was not a healthy
Could you do a day without it, or did you find that was your daily routine?
It didn't start out like that. Yeah. It didn't start out like that at all. It was just, So, and I've heard this recently. Sometimes I thought, I have to have a glass of wine to be creative. And it was not only did I have that glass of wine, but I just like I was when I was a child. I wanted to be alone. I've got 4 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband in my house, and luckily it was a big house. So I would find, my way to the couch. I'd have the computer on me, and what I started to realize is that I started to define my kids and my husband as in the way. They were in the way of, not that I even knew I was thinking that, but I it'd be like, Mom, could you put me to bed? Okay, in a minute, but I didn't. It was frustrating. Where before when I didn't have that, I would read to my kids. I would be there, but it was just like, oh my God, I got to do this. I've got to be successful. I've got, this has got to happen. And, it didn't help that we were spending money, a lot of money of our savings, and then eventually I got in partnership with my brother who put even more money. And then when you have family
so now you got
involved,
added stress and
such
family.
Stress. Right.
Oh my goodness.
And there were so many times when I wanted to give up. But it, I will say one thing that always kept me going is the product is amazing.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that I'm going to get a little religious now, but that the product idea was a gift from God.
Yeah.
And that ironically, it ended up being a portal to harmonious living.
So it played itself out. Yeah.
My own portal for the idea of fusion gates. And, I did end up eventually going to therapy, which I absolutely had to do because it just got, it was just, I wasn't part of the family really anymore. I don't think my kids tell me all the time, they don't remember that time.
Oh,
they
God.
don't remember.
Isn't that awesome?
Because I was always there.
Yeah.
I was still picking them up from school and I was still going to their games or whatever, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
My mind wasn't there. So it was,
Isn't
taken
that
up.
great?
It was taken up by the business and the ideas and the concepts during the day, and at night it would be wine. So I just, and I would say a good 5 years where I was kind of, just not there, but not there,
So,
and I wouldn't, I just want to point out, it wasn't that I was, on the floor,
drunk,
passing out or drunk. It was just shutting it down.
Yeah, you were detached. Well, so is it fair to say, I'm going to say something that, and oddly enough, we get life input from so many different ways. But I lived in southern New Jersey once, and I'm just taking a walk, and some guy's walking his dog, and a neighbor, and we end up talking. And he says something to me one day, and it plays in with this. He said, my mother, blah, 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 was talking to me, and she said, my dad always said, never become what you do. And isn't it fair to say that so many entrepreneurs, we have the danger, because we do it. There is an OCD component to everything we can touch on, but isn't there a danger? And aren't you really saying in a way that you started becoming what you do, and it alienated you from other things? And here you are, the Fusion Gates inventor. You're Fusion Gates, and it overtakes you. And next thing you know, that's what defines you.
Absolutely. That was a good 2 years in therapy. It took me.
Okay.
Like I said, it was like a love affair.
Yeah.
It really was, and it wasn't. It was. I literally became. Don't become your product.
Yeah.
I became this gate. And a good 2 years of my therapist saying, you are not a gate. Your gate is not a human being, and like I said, it was like a love affair. So what I was in love with, as early on, then after a while I started not to get along with it. Then it became my captive, and I would a couple times when the products would come in, and I'd be inspecting it, they messed up. There was all the 100 panels were not cut right, or a screw, the screw wasn't perfect. And that screw would be I would look at that screw this is, this screw not being right means I'm not right, I mean, it was that pathetic, and I would, if I would make a mistake, it would be oh my God, I made a mistake on an email that we sent to all the customers, and that means my marriage is going to fail. It just got so extreme. It was its own addiction.
Sure.
It was just crazy. But like I said, I did this article, and I read that 72% of entrepreneurs do have some sort of mental extreme. And I really do believe that I have obsessiveness, and I definitely have anxiety, which I've been treated for since I was, in my 20s. And, a little cyclomatic type of thing, nothing that's been conditioned, but, sorry.
No. So I just want to say, I want to encourage the crowd, because this is where I think, and we'll talk more about this, but you wrote a blog on August 9th, 2018. And I told you this morning, probably hands down, if not the best blog I've ever read in my life. I mean it.
Thanks, Jeff.
It was so honest and extremely well written. So if you haven't decided to write your book yet, please, do we have an applause track I don't know if we have one. Write your book, because if you write your book the way you wrote that blog, it just was off the charts awesome. So what we're going to do is, the day after this posts on the 26th of March, we're going to, on our website, SimpleBiz360.com, we're going to release that blog if you're okay with it.
Of course.
Re-release it, put it out over LinkedIn, Facebook, and everything, because it's really got so much, it's got so many pieces of direction in there, and so many, there's so much inspiration in that, because there are so many hurting people out here. But so dive into this, and you mentioned one word. I gleaned from some of your terminology. Yes, mental extremes. You reference mental extremes, a few times. The mad machine with no off switch, which we've kind of touched on, which I love the fact that, you were honest enough with yourself to see that in yourself. And then the accepting and appreciating the mental intensity. So talk a little bit about, what's the difference, in your opinion, between the mental extremes and the mental intensities? Is there a difference, first of all? Or?
I think mental intensities, you have, you're prone to think, you're prone to a mental intensity. You're prone to being attracted to something that's, but not just attracted, really attracted to it. Okay. And then mental extremes is just keep on going with it.
Okay. Bingo. Very beautiful. That's a great explanation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I'm a very emotional person, but ironically, in that article, you'll see that, the qualities for an entrepreneur, a lot of times, it comes from these mental extremes,
yes.
That empathy, and some people feel like they're cursed with, they'll watch. You'll have two people watch a movie, and one will be hysterically crying, and the other person will just be like, "Oh, that was just matter of fact," or whatever.
Right, right.
I was the hysterically crying. I feel people.
Right.
And I do that with my customers too. So, I thought when I was going to therapy to figure this out, that my therapist would help me get rid of those extremes. But, some people just have it in their DNA, and as long as I can remember, that's the kid I was, So what we worked on is identifying it, first of all, because it's scary when you don't realize, why am I not like other people, So identifying it, and then realizing that everything has two sides, and that there's benefits to it, especially in business and entrepreneurship. So
harness it.
Yes, exactly.
Don't get rid of it. Harness it.
Right.
And
exactly.
corral it, which
right.
I loved. And then good addictions just as powerful as bad ones.
Right.
Which I loved.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Bad addictions, obviously, alcohol, smoking, drugs or whatever. They mostly they calm you down, but they don't do much more. Maybe early on in high school, I know we both had a lot of fun. But, there's just, it closes you off to the rest of the world, And one of the things, and I am sober, that sobriety does for you is when that's taken off the table, the other stuff that numbs you out, you realize what's left. Like, what is going to move my heart, give me joy, which alcohol used to do that for me, but it doesn't anymore. So, first of all, we both have talked about being a Christian and just God, finding the therapist for me, getting me through the hard times during the business. That has been a big deal. And then you start relying on him, and then he brings you just clarity, and then you start realizing that, wait a minute, I have some good stuff around me, First of all, I have a husband that is incredible. I always tell him I would not last a year with his big idea. I wouldn't, and it's been 12 years, and he has been extremely patient and loving and amazing. I didn't always think that, by the way, in the middle of it, again, he was in my way. But, like I said, now it's balanced, and I could see it, And my kids, they just feed me. They feed me. And, sometimes you don't look at them like that, and
very interesting. So, when you think about the spouse part of it and having that support network and your family, I mean, how big of a role has that support network been for you through these struggles, from your sisters, from your family, everything? I mean, is it huge or what?
Yes, I will say, my husband supports me. He tries not to get into the business at all.
Right.
And I said, he was a godsend because, there could have been a lot of people saying, hey, you know what? I mean, he's in advertising and he works for Purina. He's in the dog business, but he just knew. He knows me more than I'd like to admit. He knows me, So he doesn't play that role. Mm-hmm. I have three sisters, especially one is my cheerleader. And the other two are there to edit everything I do. I don't put a post out usually on Instagram unless Mary Jo looks at it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And I say, well, first of all, I'm a terrible speller. I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. So there's always some sort of error in my writing, and I wasn't the best
Amen,
student.
sister.
It's awful. It's just awful.
Isn't that crazy? With all the spell check and everything, you're like, how did?
I know.
Luckily, you can go in and edit Facebook, and
thank God.
right?
As a matter of fact, that article LinkedIn, I just edited this morning.
Did you really? Yeah, I mean,
it was from 2 years ago.
Oh gosh.
But and my brother, obviously, he's just well, that's one thing that I will say. The point I'm at right now, I have had, and I do hope one day I could write a book.
Please
it's
do.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I told you that I always start with names, so. Right now, I told you that I was going to write the book that says the slow death of a good idea, a love story. But I hope it's like the near death of a good idea. Who knows? We're still in business, and everything's going well. You at the end of your book was able to thank so many people. I just look back and not just my family, but like I said, those panels came in with the panels were not cut right. Yeah. So I went into our local glass shop and was almost in tears. I'm like, do you mind cutting these? There's 100 of them. Just as they come in, as the orders come in, do you mind doing that? He never charged me a cent.
Oh, my goodness. How wonderful.
Never a cent.
Wow.
And then I have a landlord. I had an office, and the local college who actually, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, they were incredible in helping me start up the business, connecting me with a lot of people, and they gave me a little incentive grant early on, and they introduced me to a guy that had an office for me that just worked with me. He gave me such a good deal.
Encouraging. I mean, right? I mean, so.
And then I did hire a girl, Shelley Wolf, who was, I would say in the article, she's my Watson.
VP of everything? Or,
she's my Watson, right? You always,
by the way.
When you have a crazy mind like mine, not a lot of people understand me. I don't know if you guys are going to be understanding me when you listen to this.
Oh, my goodness, absolutely. You're doing great, by the way.
Thanks. No. But Shelley is organized, and she's almost my exact opposite, but she loves me and I love her, and it works really well. So
it's amazing when you run into good people. I mean, I've told Alex this before, working the boards. I mean, a guy, 12:30 at night, we're emailing, texting. I mean, in launching this, I have nobody to turn to, and to partner with these guys and partner with this young man who takes the TLC and the diligence into setting it up. Just it's a form of encouragement to know that you've got somebody that's got your back,
and that people still do that.
Exactly.
They give you more than you expect.
Exactly.
And I always just want to hold on to them.
Yeah.
And you know what? Unfortunately, it's like maybe 2 handfuls of people. With
Yeah.
all the people I ran
well,
into, 2 handfuls of people. So.
I really looked at people who impacted me in even a slight way, just that one piece of impact that got me to here. But, when I look, my wife, absolutely, hands down, encourager, supporter, prayer. I mean, she's a prayer warrior for me. And she's, just yesterday, I mean, I won't get into it, but we had such a monumental day yesterday. And then today she said, I'm praying that God does something that you just have no idea what he's going to do. And today I ended up, that could be that. And before we even came here this morning, it was that cool. And that, I'm coming off my first, yesterday I sold 12 books in one shot. And,
that's awesome.
it's the first time I've hit the double digits in a day, but, and I look at your story and your path and the struggles and the successes and the fact that you're still here today and producing and shipping and making and designing great product that people love. And I hearken back to Sam Walton, and he has 10 golden rules, and I just love number 10, swim upstream always. And when somebody told you can't do it, that's when you go ahead and do it. Like he said, people told me all along I couldn't put stores in towns less than 50,000 people. And he grew his business on putting stores in towns of 5,000 people, 45,000 less,
Yeah.
So, and again, I want to just ask you this question, because as an entrepreneur, I struggle with this sometimes. I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to like the book and like the podcast. And, I look at the followers and I go, oh, what in the world? How come, and I look at the book sales and I go, what? And you're just like, come on. And the bottom line is I have these little voices in my head chipping away at me sometimes saying, dude, you're not worthy. Who are you? You can't. Your advice, you're trying to put your advice in a book. And you know what? The reality is, yes, there are tens of thousands of different voices than mine. Better, the same, whatever, but they're out there, and go get them and listen to them. And I do too. I read all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But I'm just a voice that swims upstream, and I'm not talking about sexy stuff. I'm talking about stuff that matters. But I still struggle with that. Do you struggle with that voice in the back of your head saying, you can't do this, Donna. You can't keep doing this?
Oh, God. All the time.
Okay.
All
Thank
the
you.
time. And you know what? Again, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Just like our mental extremes. It doesn't go away, but you have to learn not to listen to it, or use it as a motivator, But what's interesting, I mean, there's been times where I'm like, God, why have you given me this really heavy cross? Like, why am I on this journey? And it could be something completely different from
what you're doing.
What you're thinking. Obviously, I'm not making millions,
right,
but I do have 1,000 customers that I love, and
That's
that
awesome.
Love me, and that I care about, and I have followers and on Instagram and Facebook, whatever. And I'm learning throughout and I have to compliment you on your book about this to this point, because you are so you in this book.
Thank you.
Your personality is all over it. And I think I'm finally coming to the point, and I'm getting more responses now with my posts, because I'm honest. I'm honest, and that article was absolutely honest. Sorry, I keep on saying this, but it's God given. It's just you. Oh. I listen to I've been thinking that I've taken this company as far as I can go as a solopreneur. And I've been looking for other companies to, take it over and bring it to where it should be.
Sure.
I'm definitely,
Sure.
I didn't set out to run a multi-million-dollar company,
Right.
but if that happens, great.
Yeah.
But nothing's, it's not happening right now. And I have to believe that, I still get up and I still, work at it and I still love it. Like I said, I love this product. I use the product, and I just have to believe that there's something for it. So I would think that, it might not be 1 million sales, but maybe what you wrote will, promote somebody who will be a multi-million-dollar.
Well, bingo. And you're right on the money there. I just and I'm in the middle of a period in my life where I took a leap of faith just like you did, and it was something that was a 30-year dream for me. So it wasn't, I didn't get into it like you did. I got into it knowing that, hey, in 1989, I just love watching younger people, that light bulb going off. And I honestly, if I would have known back then that that's what a teacher feels or a professor feels, I probably, had I known that before then, I probably would have gone down that route, because it gave me so much joy when that aha moment came and the person said yes. And I just thought, I think maybe my gift at the end of my career, or as I call it, the afternoon shadows of my career. Let's not call it the end, but I see them. They're like, it's dimmy. It's like, where's that sunlight?
The winter season.
Yes, the winter season. It's like here, Alex, you're way far away from it, buddy. So, but I'm like, I want to share these things in hopes of making the next person's journey a little bit easier. And I cannot help but get that feeling, especially reading your blog from August 9th, 2008, I get that feeling walking away that you set that up. That is teed up for somebody out there, or many people out there, that aren't sure of where they are today like you are, and are struggling. And
I don't even know what. I actually wrote it because, some media outlet said, why don't you get something that's topical, write something that's topical. Well, Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain just had committed suicide. Right. And I thought, oh, that's topical. I know that sounds crazy, that's, and I don't mean it to, I guess my point is, I initially intended it just to be something that was topical. But then as I wrote it, and maybe this came out in you wrote your book in that cabin, that this didn't take long to write. That blog didn't take long to write. It just poured out of me. And I don't, I almost like, I was reading it today because you mentioned it, and I was like, wow, I wrote that. That's pretty good. So I don't believe it's my words. I really believe that it's God like going through me. And this is what's crazy. I put it on LinkedIn, and I don't put many things on LinkedIn, and I got some amazing calls from people that I used to work with a long time ago, and thanking me for writing it. Yeah. And I honestly wasn't even thinking that. It was like, and there's a lot of people were saying, oh, you're so courageous. And I thought, oh my God, did I put something out there that was like,
Yeah. Oh, Donna,
I don't know. I felt very confident putting it out there because it was the truth. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was the truth. And it really was tips for to make everybody feel like they're okay. Yes. They are okay. Perfectly, I always say beautifully imperfect. You know, that's how you got to start there.
And the message, loud and clear, that comes out in this, loud and clear to me, because you say, everybody, we all have our busy week. You start your Monday morning, your Monday meetings off, but everyone knows your time on Tuesday for your therapy session is, don't schedule anything. You need that. You have to have it. And so I want to just, kind of park on that for a second and let the listening and the viewing audience hear this. And, to me, the message that I read through that is, please, out there, understand it's okay to be in the position you are and seek help, but seek the help.
Absolutely.
Don't shy away from it. So therapy has made all the difference for you. I mean, prayer too. I know we've talked about, but therapy for you is home-based, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
I find myself saying it often. My therapist says. My therapist says.
Yeah.
But Yeah. And it's, like so many people who start therapy, I thought I was going to go in there and, give or take a few months, be cured and go back out there and work.
Yeah.
But it's been a long, long process. And, there's been probably 5 steps forward, but every once in a while there's 2 steps back, And just to have somebody there that knows your history and then you could really, just speak the truth too.
Oh,
And
I
have been speaking my truth so much more than I ever have in my life, and not just in my therapy sessions, but with my customers, with my vendors, and definitely in my marriage. My marriage is better for it.
That's great.
Just. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew that this is where the journey was going to take me? That I have a pretty darn good life.
We grew up in, Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. I mean, let's face it, that's a pretty good way to grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, it's a good life, and but so here, this is just this, and I don't mean. I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way because we're live and these things come out of your mouth and you go, oh, did I say it the right way? But here's what I really want to say. Reading that blog, to me, I finished it. I finished it a number of times and I thought, even though the product line is really Donna's gift to the world, I almost feel like your story is the gift to the world.
Oh, well, thank you. But I agree with that. Yes, God's lessons need to be shared.
And that's why I wanted you on this show, not to, because look, I was 31 years recovered alcoholic, which I've shared. And I use the word recovered. I know it's a big thing, recovered. Hey, I'm recovered. I'm smart enough to know that I can't take a sip because if I take a sip, that ignites everything. That's the pilot light. And then game over. I mean, it's debauchery, in 5th gear. And so I know that, and I'm smart enough to know that not to flirt. But I also, in my life, I became a Christian, and what God did for me becoming a Christian, he doesn't do this for everybody, but when I became a Christian, the gift that he gave to me was he took alcohol away. And to me, he took the urge to drink away. And I, he's never talked to me. I can't tell you this beyond a shadow of a doubt. But to me, that was the bond. That was saying, okay, if you let me into your life and let me into your heart, I'm going to show you I'm real. And if you ever doubt I'm real, here's the deal. You're just not going to have any desire to drink. And I can't explain it. Right. I cannot explain after 14 years of drinking and drugging and doing everything I possibly could to get away from the state I'm in right now. I want to be in another state of mind. What else is it? So there is no way on God's green earth that I could sit here today in the afternoon shadows in the twilight of my career and say to myself that I can't go out there on social media. I can't go out there in the world, put myself out, expose myself, and there's no way I can't give credit to God. There's no way I can't talk about things that are bigger than products, bigger than services, bigger than books, bigger than podcasts. It's about life. And I couldn't write myself. I'm a Christian that wrote a business book. I'm not a person that wrote a Christian book.
Yeah, and really there's not, you don't mention Christianity until the very end with your, but it's funny though, there's so much good stuff in there, but just how to be a kind professional, and a truthful, honest. A lot of the recommendations and tools that you have in there are grounded in being a good person and a good Christian, but a good person just in general, and how to be respectful,
Did
towards
you hear
each
that,
other.
Monica? She's like, really? At home? I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But,
and really, I know you say that God took away your urge to drink, but what he gave you really was truth and clarity.
Yeah, correct.
And like every day you get truth and clarity, and sometimes it's not so pretty.
Yeah.
But you realize that it is still a gift from God, and that it's something that You know what the best part is that you get free choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted to not have the clarity, you could shut her down with a bottle of wine.
Bingo.
But if you stick around long enough, you realize all the blessings that come with it. And it's its own high, Jeff. It's its own high.
It is, and honestly, the high I'm getting right now, and this is really being just brutally honest, is that I get a platform to be able to help other people, but what I really love more than anything is for people to get changed and for people to find a way out of the despair they're in, or out of the addiction they're in, or out of the situation they're in, and find another way to do things, find hope. That's why I talk about being arrested so many times as a young kid, why I talk about losing so much, even losing companies I started. And it's the same with you. You've put yourself out there. And when I read that blog and I come away saying, she's got some great product, but wow, I think this is really what the message is all about. Because at the end of the day,
the portal to harmonious living.
Yes, thank you, Mary Jo. Right. So when you look at people and jobs and life and money and things and success and everything, you know what? We all have to hit the pillow at night. We all have things that destroy us in our minds or encourage us in our minds, but there's always this mind game going on with everyone. And when people get locked in a bad zone and it takes them down a bad path, it's a bad result, or it could be. And so I really just hope that what we've talked about today and what you're going to do the rest of your career, and I wish you all the best, and what I'm going to do the rest of my career is not so much talk all the time about, products and services, but what do those products and services do? What can that help in that book do for you? What can a better aesthetic life do for you? But what can Donna Abate Potter's story do for you buying this gate or reading that article? Never buying a gate for me, but reading the article. Maybe you'll change hundreds of lives without ever selling a product to anybody. And that's a great gift to know that that's what God used it for.
Right.
So if you don't mind, you advocate therapy. So it'd be fair to say that you say to anybody out there listening, if you're in a tough place, please
go seek help. And if you don't jive with the first therapist, go to another therapist, and know that the first sessions, if you're anything like me, you will barely speak and you'll probably cry the whole time or deny things. But it's just a luxury. You got to look at it as going to an exercise class, and that it's just as powerful as a 3-mile run. It's you just, and there's so many out there, and mental illness is a real thing, and we're all okay, and that's the bottom line. That's what you get from therapy. I walk out every day, every Tuesday, and I know I'm okay, and I'm there, I'm strong enough to handle the day and enjoy it.
Well, that's awesome. And listen, everybody, I mean, such a great message. And I'm just going to say something, as a alcoholic and somebody who's been involved in so many drugs and bad scenes and, breaking the law and all that crap. And, excuse my words, my French there. But I just want to encourage you that wherever you are, if you just like Donna said, go find therapists. If you need help, just don't stay home and keep it bottled up. Go find somebody to help you. Go out there and search it out. And if you're not comfortable with the therapy community or you don't know where to turn, I implore you, find a reputable church in your area. If you're listening to this somewhere else, find a reputable church and seek counselors out from that church. If you're here in St. Louis, I've got permission. I met with one of the pastors at the church I go to. It's the Crossing here in Chesterfield. We've got a bunch of different campuses, but it's info@thecrossing.church. That's right, .church, not .com. The info@thecrossing.church. And they're there. They know they could get emails, and they will help direct you to somebody you can talk to start that process. And it's important because it'll destroy you if you don't. And life's too short. It really is. Well, I've lost 2 guys from my wedding. I'm 61, 59 years old and 61. 2 guys gone already. And so, at any rate, another thing I'd just like to say is, I love exercise and love moving. So I always say, move today for tomorrow. So if you're out there in your 20s, 30s, and you're not exercising, not working the ticker, get that heart muscle going. Because honestly, once you're 60, 50, 70, 80, you got
it's
grandkids.
Hard to get out of bed,
yeah,
right?
and you want, it'll give you a better quality life later on. So, someone's telling you this that just hit 35,000 miles on their legs running. So I've been running for 40 years. Know a little bit about, may not be the trimmest guy, but hey, I know the benefits and the ticker. It's important to work it. So enough said there. Thank you so much for indulging us. Two quick things. Before we get into Lost and Shuffle, one quick question. What's your favorite tool out of the book? I love to.
Oh my gosh.
If you had to pick one,
there was a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Oh boy.
Actually, the one was at the end of the book, and I'm going to try this. I will say, let's see. I've been selling the gates for 5 years. The company's been in existence for 12. But, you have times where you kind of get used to the procedures that you put into place, and you don't, change around or whatever. So I loved this, the 1% multiplier. So you talk about how to... you should always be looking to improve your business somehow. And with all the tools that you have, how many is it? 350?
255.
255, right. Pick 10 of them, or pick 10 issues that you would, that you see that you can improve on. Right. And it doesn't have to be big ones.
Right.
And every issue that you have, you address it, and that addressing it gives you maybe a 1% growth in, I don't know if it's margin or whatever, something. So I'm going to start to use that. I loved that because, nothing happens overnight, and it is like, you got to take it piece by piece.
One step at a time. It's
exactly.
like a ladder. You're just walking up one stair, that 1% change.
Right.
You add it up. Somebody says, oh, I'm going to improve my company 15%. Well, find 15 things to change. And so,
right.
I appreciate it.
I also loved the analogy that you had on, looking at the sales process through just that waiter going in, and maybe you could describe it to the listeners, because I just thought it was so great to see, the customer ordering from the menu, and you translated that into what the sales process is. So.
Yeah, so my pedigree is sales, but this isn't a sales book. You probably gleaned that, which I want to say over and over and over. It's not about selling. So what I do is I explain the buying process. And Linear Business Products, a fine company I worked for, was kind enough to teach us all those. So many of the tools that are even in that book started with them. But one of them was. Understanding the buying process that a buyer goes through: attention, interest, conviction, desire, and action. Mm-hmm. And I just give a simple explanation in the book about a restaurant experience to kind of give the reader a framework. Okay, explain, what are these 5 steps? What do they look like? And that's what you're referencing. So it's only really a paragraph of the book. And, it's really more of a book that, like today, the excitement I had today, the opportunity I may have in front of me that I'm really excited about, has nothing to do with sales. It has everything to do with some of the human relations portions of that book in there, and some of the way, because here's what it is, and I think that, and I'll end on this and ask you for your Lost in the Shuffle, but I look at Starbucks, and Starbucks did a thing called in the 90s, the brand, and I'm going to touch on this in the podcast down the road, but the brand manager, chief brand officer at the time, Scott Bedbury, and his team put together what they called the Big Dig, and they went back and they tried to break the code of Starbucks. What is the brand identity? And they read articles going back 500 years on coffee houses. And they got up to the modern day, and they're looking at everything, and it bubbles up to them, and they realize that they're more or less an atmospheric company. Mm. And they realize that through this process that they don't necessarily, they're not in the business of serving coffee to people. They're in the business of serving people coffee. Mm. You and I, in every business out there, if you really think about it, you're in the business of serving people harmonious lifestyles.
Absolutely, 100%. I
right.
With
right.
every screw.
Yep. Right. And that's what it comes down
yes,
to. You're not
every
serving.
piece, right? I know,
Yep.
and everything matters.
It does.
And it's very important to me that, and I do have a lot of testimonials, on my website, and I love when people say that they love the gate. Now, who would say they love a dog gate,
Yeah.
But they do. They love their dogs and they love their gate.
Yep.
And that is so meaningful to me. That's how I feel. Like, I love walking through it.
That hits home for you.
Yeah,
I mean, it's right.
And people actually say that, and it makes me really, really happy, because that's the overall goal. They can go to Walmart and buy a $29 gate for sure, and but mine is more about harmonious living, pride, in the good sense, not in the bad.
Well, isn't it? Yeah,
just like respect for your home and love for your family, love for your space.
I mean, so and when it all comes down to it, I think we all realize it's kind of like a marriage in a lot of ways, where my wife says to me, it's not so much what I say. It's how I say it. It's not so much what we do in a lot of ways, it's how we do it. And I know for me, my gift in that book is really, it's a book to say, listen, this is how to do it differently. Not necessarily, there's no products or goods or services in there. And, what you're really delivering with your Fusion Gates is happiness at home. You're not really, you're bringing about what we used to call at Lanier the dominant buying motive, and that's, a better feeling at home. And so, that's what you're really delivering to people. So I find it so interesting, but I love your take on that. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you for reading the book. And I love your, learning about Amazon, all the review processes on Amazon. Oh my goodness! If you would be kind enough though to put a review up, that'd be great.
And you guys can't see it, but there's I pretty much have every single page underlined.
That's great.
I wrote down all my notes.
Look at that. That's awesome.
No, Jeff, I really think that this should be a requirement in intro to business classes. I mean, I think if anybody was going to, just start their career understanding just these basic skills, this simple business skills, I think that they would have a very long career.
My editor said the same thing. She said, we write this book, let's do it in a way that, don't count yourself out for education.
Yeah.
And
I love, too, that at the end you have all the... I love how you outline everything. So for the people that kind of,
I want to just go back and look at
look it up, because I even have that underlined.
Yeah.
But
well, if you ever need an editor, she's a great editor.
Okay.
Leanna Groves did a great job. But it's one of those things where I never thought about it as an educational piece. But who knows? You never know where it's going to go, right?
You never know.
So. Lost in the Shuffle track. At the end of every episode, we do a Lost in the Shuffle track. It's not meant to be necessarily a great rock and roll song. Well, it's a great rock and roll song, but it didn't make the top 40. It didn't make the rotation. But you dive into these albums and you hear it and you go, wow, is that not a hot song? So I asked you to come up with one, and you came up with one right off the top of your head.
It's a song that I remember listening to in college. Somebody introduced it to me in college. And I love the tune, really. I mean, the story is interesting, but it's Steely Dan, Dirty Work. And every time I hear it, it just makes me happy. It makes me think of that time. It makes me feel free. Now, the song is about, I think a married woman having an affair with a young man or something,
Correct. And he doesn't want to get out of the affair
either. And he doesn't want to get out of the affair.
Yeah.
They're just it's just a cool song. It's just a really cool song, and I feel,
great.
It's raw and...
Cool. And it's got they're just a great band. And that came from the 72 album, Can't Buy a Thrill, which was their first album, and great band. And to me, I only have a few songs in my life that like make the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I hear it.
Yeah.
But when I hear Reeling in the Years from that album, when I hear the
love that
first
too.
lick.
That reminds me of riding banana seat bicycle
Yes,
at Mountain Park
right?
School,
oh
right?
my gosh. And the Schwinns with the...
yeah, the Schwinn, right. The 10 speeds, right.
But, so that album is great. That song, unfortunately, folks, from the 60s and 70s, practically any song we pull out is going to be about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Right.
Just the way it is. I listen to the tune. Sometimes I try to put the words out of it. But any rate, great tune. So we'll put that up, Dirty Works by Steely Dan. And hey, it has been such a pleasure. And I'm so
Same
proud
here.
of you. And
Thank you.
Really, you've done and more importantly, you put yourself out there. And I hope that people find comfort, rest, therapeutic information in this that they can go take the next step with and do something. And it's just been a super blast. And we always end the show by just encouraging people, if they're out there driving, keep the shiny side up. It's kind of an old, 70s trucker term. But, basically, hey, keep those wheels on the ground, keep the paint job shiny, keep it on the right side. And, hey, hold on to your sand, right? Profitability, every piece of profit's so important. The book has some ideas. I'm sure there's people in your life you can go to figure out how do I hold on to more of my sand. But please do that. And you know what? At the end of the day, if we're not satisfying customers, if we're not getting that customer appreciation, we've got nothing. They may pay the bills once, but never come back or tell anybody else.
No.
And we're all about customer appreciation, make that customer happy. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for driving out here and doing this. This is awesome.
I've enjoyed
awesome.
it. It's fun.
Do you want to say anything to anybody listening in Berkeley Heights? You're welcome to, or anywhere.
No.
Okay, just say hi to the family.
Hi, everybody.
And, we hope you guys had fun. I hope your family had fun watching. Especially the kids, mom. She did a great job. Hello to Governor Livingston. Hello to Berkeley Heights. A great place to grow up and live. So we thank you for everything. And drive safe. And we will see you guys next week for episode 24. Take care.